Life doesn't punish the reckless, it punishes the motionless. Those who risk nothing do manage to stay safe for a while, but that safety slowly turns into something else. It turns into regret. And regret doesn't arrive all at once. It shows up quietly, bit by bit, every time you choose fear over possibility. Most of us were raised with the same idea: stay where it's comfortable. Don't stick your neck out. Don't fail. Don't embarrass yourself. So we learn to live inside the familiar. We settle into routines. We stay close to what we already know. And on the surface, it seems reasonable. No risk, no loss, no trouble. But there's a cost that nobody mentions. When you stop stretching yourself, something inside you begins to shrink. Not the body, the spirit, the part of you that once wanted more. That part goes quiet. It's not that people don't have dreams. They do. They just slowly talk themselves out of them. Not because the dream was impossible, but because the fear of losing felt worse than the possibility of winning felt good. Comfort looks like peace, but it isn't. It's a soft, slow kind of decline. You don't notice it at first. You just realize one day that the fire you used to have has cooled, and you don't quite know when it happened, only that you let life get too easy for too long. Go anywhere, a workplace, a neighborhood, a gathering, and you'll see it clearly. So many people living carefully, not passionately, not boldly, just carefully. People who once had ideas, excitement, imagination. They wanted to build, explore, create something. But somewhere along the line, they got convinced that risk equals danger, so they traded their possibility for predictability. They call it stability, but in reality, it's stagnation, because the world doesn't pause, it keeps moving, and if you don't move with it, you get left behind. Not by others, but by yourself. Every meaningful thing humanity has ever achieved came from someone willing to step into uncertainty before they knew whether it would work. Someone who said, I might fail, and it's still worth trying. That's the difference. There are people who merely get through life, and there are people who actually live it. You learn when you risk. You grow when you risk. You wake up inside your own life when you risk. And the person who risks nothing, they don't lose all at once. They lose slowly, comfort by comfort, excuse by excuse, year by year, until one day there's nothing left but routine and memory of what could have been. The truth is simple and unforgiving. Those who risk nothing lose everything. Not the house, not the job, not the savings. They lose themselves, their courage, their hunger, their aliveness. Because the one who risks, even and especially when he fails, learns how to live. And the one who never risks anything never really does. The 98% who seek safety and the 2% who step forward. If you watch people closely, you will notice something interesting. Most are not really trying to win at life. Most are simply trying not to lose. There's a difference, a big one. Nearly everyone wants security, a stable job, predictable days, a life where nothing unexpected happens. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Who wouldn't want the ground under their feet to feel solid? But look deeper. Security can also mean lack of movement. It can mean never testing your limits. It can mean living inside a very small circle, even though you were born capable of so much more. About 98% of people choose that path. Not because they lack intelligence, many are brilliant. Not because they lack potential, they have oceans of it. They choose it because they are afraid of the alternative, afraid of being wrong, afraid of looking foolish, afraid of failing where others can see. The remaining 2%, the people who build, change, and lead, they are not fearless. They simply understand something the others don't. Security is not something you find outside yourself. It's something you build inside yourself. The 98% depend on circumstances for stability. The 2% depend on character. The 98% want guarantees before they act. The 2% act so they can create something worth guaranteeing. The average person spends their spare time easing the mind, entertainment, distraction, escape. The risk taker spends that same time sharpening the mind, thinking, learning, trying, failing, adjusting, same 24 hours, different quality of life, and slowly, almost quietly, the gap widens, not in talent, not in luck, in growth. Those who risk learn, and those who do not risk do not learn. This is why the person who tries, even poorly, eventually surpasses the person who waited for the perfect moment. Because the perfect moment does not come. It never has. You can wait your entire life for the conditions to be right, and life will simply move on without you. But the one who moves, even clumsily at first, gains something priceless: experience, wisdom, adaptability, self-respect. Those are the real forms of security. Because once you've learned how to rebuild yourself, you never fear losing anything again. That is the difference. The majority protect what they have. The minority becomes someone who can always create more. One group lives life trying not to drown. The other learns how to swim. And in the long run, the swimmer will always outlast the man clinging to the shore. Playing it safe leads to stagnation, not success. Most people don't fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never tried at all. Playing it safe feels smart until you realize how much it's costing you. There is a certain dullness that settles into a person who has stopped stretching themselves. You can see it in their posture, in the tone of their voice, in the way they talk about their days. Nothing wrong ever happens to them, but nothing meaningful happens either. They don't fall, but they also never rise. Life has a quiet rule. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. There is no holding still. There is no maintaining your level. The world moves forward, and if you refuse to move with it, you slowly fade from your own potential. You can go years like that, years of not bad, years of fine, years of going to work, coming home, passing the time, and then one day, something hits you. You got older, but you didn't get further. Comfort had you in its grip the whole time. Comfort tells you, you're okay. No need to change. And because nothing is forcing you to grow, you don't. But your spirit knows the truth. Ever notice that people who play it safe often feel restless? A dull frustration they can't quite explain? A heaviness in the chest, or a lingering sense that something's missing, even if nothing is wrong. That is the cost of avoiding risk. Not disaster, not ruin, just a life that never becomes what it could have been. Stagnation is not dramatic. It's subtle. It's quiet. It feels like waking up tired even when you slept, losing excitement for the things you once loved, feeling busy but never fulfilled, feeling older but not wiser, feeling safe but not alive. People think failure is painful. No, failure is feedback. Stagnation is painful because stagnation carries regret, and regret has a very long memory. When you take risks, you may fall, but when you don't take risks, you fall slowly, for years, and call it normal life. One is loud and fast, the other is quiet and suffocating. And here is the truth that most never understand. Success demands movement, and movement demands uncertainty. There is no version of growth that lets you stay comfortable the whole time. There is no version of becoming your best self that lets you avoid difficulty. But there is a version of life where you remain exactly who you are until time runs out. Playing it safe feels like protection, but it is really a trade. You are trading your future for your present comfort, and the price is always higher than you think. True progress belongs to those who risk failure and ridicule. There is something most people never realize about failure and ridicule. They are not signs you're doing something wrong. They are signs you're doing something real. Whenever you decide to grow, to try, to build, to improve, you will feel resistance, not just from the world, but from within yourself. Your mind will say, what if I look foolish? What if I fail? What will they think? We are not afraid of effort. We are afraid of embarrassment. We are afraid of being laughed at. And that fear, that tiny fear of someone else's opinion, is what holds entire lives hostage. Ask yourself honestly, how many things have you not even attempted because you imagine someone might not approve? Probably more than you want to admit. The people who achieve anything meaningful in this world are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who are willing to look wrong before they look right. The first person who tried to make metal fly through the sky was mocked. The first person who tried to send a human voice through a wire was laughed at. The first person who believed diseases were caused by invisible organisms was dismissed as insane, and yet, today, the entire world uses airplanes, telephones, and antibiotics without a second thought. The ridicule didn't mean the pioneers were wrong, it meant the crowd wasn't ready to understand. This is how progress always works. First they ignore you, then they mock you, then they resist you, then they admire you, and finally they say, "Of course, it was obvious all along." So what changed? Not the idea, the world. If you are doing something worthwhile, you should expect resistance. You should expect misunderstanding. You should expect a few raised eyebrows, smirks, and quiet comments. But you must also remember this: ridicule has never killed a dream, but fear of ridicule has. The laugh of a stranger cannot hurt you. The doubt of a friend cannot stop you. The opinions of the crowd cannot break you. The only thing that can break you is your belief that their laughter means something. It doesn't. Most people who laugh are not laughing at you. They're laughing to hide the fact that they never had the courage to try anything themselves. If you knew how rarely people were thinking about you, you would stop worrying altogether. The ones who risk failure, embarrassment, difficulty, they discover something valuable: self-respect. Not pride, not ego, self-respect. The quiet, unshakable knowledge that you tried where others stayed silent, that you moved where others stood still, that you lived where others only watched. The truth is simple: you can be laughed at for trying, and you'll forget it in a day, but you can regret not trying, and it will stay with you for a lifetime. Historical innovators were mocked, yet persevered. If you study history honestly, not through the filter of textbooks, but through the eyes of the people who lived it, you notice something very consistent. Every person who changed the world was doubted first. Not some of them, not most of them, all of them. When someone sees a possibility others don't, the reaction is almost always the same. That won't work. That's impossible. Who do you think you are? Not because people are cruel, but because people are limited by what they've already seen. And anything outside that boundary feels like a threat to their understanding of the world. Progress always begins as a disagreement with the present. The innovators were not special because they were geniuses. They were special because they kept going after being laughed at. There was a woman who believed the hospital didn't need to be a place of death and infection. She insisted on basic sanitation and cleanliness. The medical establishments dismissed her. Some even mocked her. But Florence didn't quit. She saved lives by refusing to lower her vision to the level of others' understanding. There were two bicycle repair brothers in Ohio who believed humans could fly. They were ridiculed relentlessly. Experts, scholars, even pilots called them foolish. But the Wright brothers kept experimenting, adjusting, failing, and trying again, alone, on windy sand, while the world laughed. The world only stopped laughing when they lifted off the ground. Marie Curie spent years handling materials no one believed were real or meaningful. Her research nearly consumed her health, yet she kept going because she wasn't searching for approval, she was searching for truth. Galileo, Da Vinci, Harriet Tubman, Nikola Tesla, Helen Keller, pick any name etched into the memory of civilization. Behind every achievement you will find criticism, mockery, misunderstanding, resistance, and an individual who moved anyway. Greatness is not created in applause. It is created in isolation. It happens when a man or woman says, "I know you don't see what I see, but I see it, and that is enough." Most people are not held back by a lack of ability. They are held back by a lack of tolerance for being misunderstood. They cannot stand the thought of standing alone. They cannot bear the sound of someone laughing at them, so they choose to stay where others approve, even if that place is small. You will never be mocked by someone doing more than you. You will only be mocked by those who are doing less. People who build don't criticize. People who climb don't laugh at those who are climbing. People who are living their purpose don't have the time to belittle anyone else's. So when the laughter comes, and it will, don't take it personally. It is simply the sound of someone who stopped where you chose to continue. The risk taker actually plays the safest game in the long run. There's a strange irony in life that very few people ever know. The person who takes risks is actually safer than the person who avoids them. That sounds backward at first. We're taught to believe that safety comes from staying in familiar territory, the stable job, the routine, the predictable life. But safety built on avoidance is fragile. It collapses the moment life changes, and life always changes. The person who never tests themselves never learns how to handle difficulty. The person who never fails never learns how to recover. The person who never takes a chance never learns how to think for themselves under pressure. So when life demands adaptability, and it always does, the safe person is unprepared. Meanwhile, the one who has taken risks has already learned how to navigate uncertainty. They've strengthened their mind. They've learned how to solve problems. They've learned how to stay calm when things are unclear. They are not fearless. They are familiar with fear, and therefore not controlled by it. Risk takers gain something that comfort seekers never develop: competence. And competence is the only real security there is. Jobs come and go. Money comes and goes. Circumstances change without warning. But if you know how to think, adapt, learn, act, and rebuild, you are never without power. That's why the risk taker actually lives with less fear than the person who avoids risk. The one who risks says, "I may fall, but I know how to get back up." The one who avoids risk silently knows, "If I ever fall, I don't know what I'll do." So ask yourself, who is truly in danger? The person who has learned to navigate storms, or the person who has only known calm? The person who has walked through fear, or the person who has only run from it? The person who has tasted failure and grown stronger, or the person who has never tested their strength at all? Life has a way of rewarding those who participate in it. When you take risks, thoughtful risks, you are constantly gaining skill, wisdom, perspective, confidence, resilience, courage. These things compound, they stack, they build a foundation inside you that cannot be taken away. The risk taker eventually reaches a point where they do not fear life anymore, not because life gets easier, but because they get stronger. That is real safety, that is real wealth, that is real freedom. Meanwhile, the person who played it safe wakes up one day and realizes they have lived the same year many times and called it a life. You do not need to be reckless. You do not need to gamble blindly. You do not need to leap without preparation. But you do need to be willing to move, to try, to learn, to risk being seen, to risk being misunderstood, to risk being wrong, to risk living. Because in the end, the greatest risk is not that you fail. The greatest risk is that you never become who you could have been. In the end, life will ask you one simple question: did you live, or did you just stay safe? Because safety has a price, and that price is your growth, your courage, your potential. Those who risk nothing may avoid failure, yes. They may avoid embarrassment, judgment, uncertainty, but they also avoid themselves. They avoid the part of them that could have built, created, loved, tried, stood up, stood out, reached further, gone deeper, risen higher. They avoid becoming the person they were meant to be. The truth is, you don't lose everything at once. You lose it choice by choice, moment by moment, year by year, until one day you look back and realize the life you wanted was always one step past the fear you refused to face. So risk something. Risk being seen. Risk being wrong. Risk trying again. Risk caring about something deeply. Because the real danger is not in leaping. The real danger is in never leaving the ground. And if there is one thing life has proven over and over, those who risk nothing lose everything. But those who risk, even once, gain something the safe will never touch. The feeling of being truly, undeniably alive.